The diplomatic shuttle touched down on the landing pad of Kepler Station with a heavy metal sound. Captain Marcus Webb walked out with 6 people behind him. They all wore the blue uniforms of Earth Space Command. Marcus was tall, with gray hair and a hard face. He had been doing this job for 20 years, and every time felt the same. He felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He felt the weight of not knowing what would happen next. The alien ship sat in the landing bay like a dark metal monument. It was 3 times bigger than any human ship. The surface was smooth and black, and it had weapons on every side. Marcus could see the gun ports clearly. He did not like what he saw. "They are calling again," said Lisa Hammond, the communications officer. She stood next to Marcus, looking at the readings on her small device. "They want to meet. They say it is peaceful." Marcus nodded slowly. He had heard the signals from the Valorian ship for 3 months now. They kept appearing at the edge of human space. They kept asking to talk. Every human captain who met them said the same thing. These beings were dangerous, even if they said they were peaceful. There was something in the way they moved, in the way their ships behaved, that made human instincts scream warnings. "Tell them we are ready," Marcus said. He looked at his team. "Remember what we discussed. Stay calm. Do not make fast movements. Do not reach for weapons. Let them speak first." The door of the alien ship opened slowly. A ramp came down. Light spilled out from inside, making it hard to see what was coming. Then a figure emerged. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. The creature was 7 feet tall. Its body was covered in black scales that looked like polished stone. It had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. Its eyes glowed bright yellow and burned with an intelligence that seemed almost painful to witness. It moved like water, like something that knew exactly what every part of its body was doing at every moment. It was, without question, the most dangerous thing Marcus had ever seen in his life. The creature walked forward slowly. Marcus could see the claws on its hands. Long, curved, sharp. This was an apex predator. This was a hunter built by nature or by design to kill things much larger than humans. "I am Kethis," the creature said. Its voice came from deep in its chest, a rumbling baritone that made the air vibrate. "I represent the Valorian Coalition. We come with a gift for humanity. We come with respect and with hope for friendship." Marcus forced himself to smile. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. "Welcome to Kepler Station. I am Captain Marcus Webb. We are honored to receive you. What is this gift you speak of?" Kethis moved one of his 4 arms, and something shifted in the shadows of the shuttle behind him. Another creature emerged. It was similar to Kethis, but smaller, and it was covered in scars. Deep scars that spoke of battles and survival. This creature had the same scale-covered body, the same 4 arms, the same glowing eyes. But this one moved differently. It moved like a weapon. It moved like a hunter that had killed many times and would kill many times again. "This is a Zarathian enforcer," Kethis said. "In our galaxy, these are the most feared creatures in the region. They are fast. They are strong. They are trained to fight and to protect. We have decided to give this enforcer to humanity. We give it to you as a symbol that we want to help you survive in a dangerous universe. Your military is young. Your technology is not yet as advanced as others. But with this enforcer, you will have something that can help you defend your worlds and your people." Marcus stared at the Zarathian enforcer. His security team had moved slightly closer to him, their hands near their weapons. This was the moment. This was the decision point. Marcus could reject the gift. He could refuse to take the creature. It would be the safe choice. But he also knew that the Valorian Coalition would remember a rejection. They would remember an insult. "This is a generous gift," Marcus said carefully. He chose every word with care. But before we can accept, I must ask a question. Is it friendly? There was a moment of silence. Kethis tilted his head, the four eyes studying Marcus with what might have been curiosity. Then a sound came from Kethis. It took Marcus a moment to understand that it was laughter. Friendly, Kethis said. This is an interesting question. The word means different things to different beings. The Zarathian enforcer is not programmed to be friendly. It is not programmed to like other creatures or to feel affection. But it is programmed to be loyal. It is programmed to obey. It is programmed to protect those it bonds with. One of your people must volunteer to bond with this creature. When the bonding is complete, the enforcer will follow that person. It will obey that person. It will protect that person with its life. This is its purpose. This is what it was made to do. And if no one bonds with it, asked Lisa Hammond. Her voice was steady, but Marcus could hear the fear underneath. Then it will remain in a state of waiting, Kethis said. It will not attack. It will not try to escape. But it will not be what it was designed to be. It will not be useful. It will simply exist. This is not good for the creature. The creature needs a purpose. The creature needs a bond. Marcus nodded slowly. He looked at the Zarathian enforcer again. The creature stood still, its glowing eyes watching him without expression, without feeling. This was not a pet. This was not a companion in any normal sense. This was a weapon, a tool, a being designed only for killing. But it was also alive. Marcus could see that now. Under all the fear and the danger, under all the predatory instincts and the military training, there was something alive looking out from those glowing eyes. Something that wanted to be useful. Something that wanted to have a purpose. We will need time to decide, Marcus said. We will need to talk with our leaders. We will need to understand what we are taking on if we accept this gift. Of course, Kethis said. This is reasonable. We will remain on your station. We will wait for your answer. But I will tell you this, Captain Webb. The galaxy is not a safe place. There are others who see your species as weak. There are others who see your worlds as opportunities for conquest. With this enforcer at your side, you will be less weak. You will have a chance to survive what is coming. Kethis and the Zarathian enforcer walked back toward the shuttle. Marcus watched them go, and he felt the weight of the moment settle on him like a heavy coat. He had opened the door to something he did not fully understand. He had allowed something dangerous into human space. And the question that burned in his mind as he walked back to his shuttle was simple and terrifying. Had he made a terrible mistake? The Valorian Coalition wanted to give humanity a weapon. But weapons have ways of turning on those who wield them. Weapons have ways of changing everything they touch. Marcus Webb did not know it yet, but the decision he was about to make would change the course of human history. It would change the way humans saw themselves, and the way the rest of the galaxy saw humans. All because someone had asked a simple question. Is it friendly? Patricia Cross was not a warrior. She was a scientist. She was a linguist who spent her days analyzing languages and studying how different beings communicated with each other. She was 42 years old and had never fired a gun in her life. She had never been trained in combat. She had never been on a battlefield. Her entire career had been spent in laboratories and research stations, looking at patterns and trying to understand how minds worked across different species. So, when the emergency council meeting was held to discuss who would bond with the Zarathian enforcer, everyone was surprised when Patricia raised her hand. "I will do it," she said. Her voice was calm and quiet, but everyone in the room heard her. Admiral Houston stared at her. "Dr. Cross, I have great respect for your work, but you are not a warrior. This creature is a weapon. It was built to kill. It was built to fight. You cannot control something like this. With respect, Admiral, I do not think you understand what bonding means, Patricia said. The ambassador said the creature bonds based on will and trust. It bonds based on understanding between two beings. I can build trust. That is what I have spent my entire life doing. I can understand how other minds work. I can understand what this creature needs. I believe I can form a bond with it. Marcus Webb looked at Patricia carefully. He had known her for 3 years. She was brilliant, yes, but she was also fragile in the way that brilliant people sometimes were. She lived in her mind more than in the physical world. What would happen to someone like that when bonded to an apex predator? If you are certain, Marcus said finally, then we will allow this. The bonding took place in a sealed chamber deep below the station. The chamber was made of reinforced metal. There were emergency exits. There were weapons hidden in the walls if something went wrong. Patricia wore simple clothes. Nothing that would restrict her movement. Nothing that would make her seem like she was preparing for a fight. The Zarathian enforcer was brought in by Ambassador Kethis himself. The creature looked even larger in the confined space. Its shoulders were almost touching the walls. Its head nearly brushed the ceiling. In this small room, the creature seemed absolutely overwhelming. Patricia stood in the center of the chamber and did not move. She did not back away. She did not show fear, even though fear was moving through her body like electricity. I am Patricia Cross, she said. She spoke as if she were greeting another scientist at a conference. I know what you are. I know that you have been trained to fight. I know that you have been trained to kill. I know that you are dangerous. But I want to know something else. I want to know who you are underneath all of that training. I want to know what you want to be. The enforcer made a sound in its throat. It was a low rumble, something that seemed to come from the bottom of the earth. Patricia had no idea if this was aggression or curiosity. She had no training for this. She only had her instinct, and her instinct told her to stand still, to not move, to wait. The enforcer took one step forward, then another. It was not fast. It was deliberate. Patricia could see every muscle moving under the black scales. She could see the power that was contained in that body. If this creature wanted to kill her, she would be dead in seconds. There was no way to stop it. There was no defense. The creature raised one of its 4 arms and extended its clawed hand toward Patricia. It was close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating from its body. It was close enough that she could see herself reflected in its glowing yellow eyes. Slowly, Patricia raised her own hand and placed it against the creature's palm. The moment their skin touched, something shifted. Patricia felt it in her chest, like a door opening. The creature made another sound, this one different from the first. This one seemed to come from surprise or recognition or understanding. Patricia could not be sure what it meant. Ambassador Kethis watched from the corner of the chamber. The bonding is complete, he said. His name was Varath before the military training changed him. You may give him a new name if you wish, or you may restore his old identity. Patricia did not take her hand away from Vareth's palm. She looked up at the creature's face, at those strange glowing eyes, at the alien features that should have been terrifying, but somehow were not. Varath is perfect, she said. I will not change it. Over the next 3 weeks, Patricia and Varath were almost never apart. The station staff had been told to allow them access to any area they needed. Patricia brought Varath to the training chambers. She brought him to the observation decks. She brought him to the cafeteria and tried to teach him what human food was and how humans ate. Some of the food Varath ate. Some of it he ignored. He seemed to have a taste for protein, and he would eat raw meat if Patricia offered it. But he also seemed curious about everything. Even the foods he could not eat. Patricia spent hours simply sitting with Vorath in silence. She had learned that silence was important in cross-species communication. Sometimes words meant nothing. Sometimes what mattered was just the presence of another being. The knowledge that you were not alone. She talked to him about her life. She told him about growing up on Earth, about the oceans and the mountains and the sky. She told him about her parents, who had wanted her to be a doctor, but were happy when she became a scientist instead. She told him about why she had dedicated herself to understanding how other minds worked. Vorath listened. Whether he understood or not, Patricia could not be completely sure. But he listened. His glowing eyes would track her as she spoke. His body would remain still. He would give her his full attention. Patricia also began to understand Vorath's own communication. He had a series of sounds he made. Some were low rumbles that seemed to come from his chest. Some were sharp clicks that came from his throat. Some were high-pitched sounds that hurt her ears but seemed to mean something specific to him. She began to keep a record of these sounds. She began to track which sounds corresponded with which emotions or actions. She began to build a language with Vorath. Not a human language. Not a Zarathian language. But something new. Something that belonged to both of them. On the 21st day, something happened that changed the way the station saw Vorath forever. A child had gotten lost in the lower corridors. Her name was Emma, and she was 4 years old. She had separated from her mother in the crowd near the supply station. The station had gone into lockdown, and search teams had been sent to find her, but it was Vorath who found her. Patricia heard him make a specific sound. A pattern of low rumbles that she had come to recognize as something like urgency mixed with protection. She followed him through the corridors of the station. They moved deeper into the station, into areas that were less used and less populated. And then they found Emma in a small maintenance room, crying and afraid. Vorath made a different sound. A softer sound. He walked slowly toward the child and lowered his massive body down until he was closer to her size. His great scaled head tilted slightly, and he looked at the small human child with those glowing yellow eyes. Emma stopped crying. She looked at this creature that should have terrified her, and somehow she was not afraid. Vorath curled up next to her, wrapping his body around her in a protective position. His heat kept her warm. His presence kept her from being alone. Patricia watched as the search teams arrived and found the child safe with an alien apex predator. She waited to see fear. She waited to see violence. She waited to see the worst. Instead, when Emma's mother arrived and saw her daughter with Vorath, she did not scream. She did not try to grab her child. Instead, she looked at the creature that had protected her daughter, and she said thank you. From that moment on, Vorath was no longer seen as a weapon. He was seen as a guardian. He was seen as something more than his biology suggested. He was seen as a choice. A being who could have caused harm but instead chose protection. And Patricia understood that the bonding had been successful in a way that neither she nor Ambassador Kethis could have predicted. They had not created a tool. They had created a relationship. They had created a partnership between two beings from completely different worlds. The alarms came without warning. One moment the station was quiet, with people going about their daily work. The next moment, everything was chaos and fire and death. The Krell ships appeared on the detection screens like ghosts made of burning metal. There were 4 capital ships and 12 fighters. They came fast and hard, and they came with weapons that humanity did not have. Captain Marcus Webb was in the command center when the first explosion hit. The station shook violently. Red emergency lights came on automatically. Around him, his officers were shouting, trying to do their jobs in the middle of disaster. "We have hull breaches in sections 7 and 8, shouted Lisa Hammond, her fingers moving across her console. "The outer docking bays are gone." Multiple casualties reported in the agricultural sector. How many? Marcus asked. His voice was steady, but his hands wanted to shake. Initial estimates suggest 3,000, maybe 4,000, Lisa said. She did not look at him when she said it. She could not look at him. Marcus felt the weight of those numbers crush down on him. 3,000 people, 4,000 people, families, children, scientists and workers, and people who had done nothing to deserve this fate. Get evacuation teams to those sections, he ordered. But he knew it was probably too late. The Krell were already moving to cut off escape routes, already positioning themselves to maximize casualties. The Krell were not known for mercy. The Krell were known for being efficient. Admiral Houston's voice crackled through the communication system. Captain, we are engaging the Krell fighters, but we are badly outgunned. They have weapon systems that are outpacing our defensive grids. I estimate we can hold for maybe 10 minutes. After that, they will have complete control of space around the station. How many people can we evacuate in 10 minutes? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Maybe 500 if we are very lucky, Houston said. There are 5,000 people on this station, Captain. We cannot save them all. Marcus felt the weight of command settle on him like a physical thing. He was looking at the potential death of 4,500 people. And there was nothing in all of his training, nothing in all of his experience, that told him what to do in this moment. Then Patricia's voice came through on his private communication channel. Marcus, we are coming up to the main junction. Vorath and I have something to show you. Patricia, get to the evacuation pods immediately, Marcus said. That is an order. Get to safety. I am not part of your chain of command, Marcus, Patricia said. And I think you are about to see why the Valorian brought Vorath here. Patricia stood in the corridor with Vorath beside her. The walls around them were shaking. Dust was falling from the ceiling. The sounds of explosions echoed through the metal corridors of the station. Around them, other people were running, trying to get to the evacuation pods or to the safe zones. But Patricia was calm. Vorath was calm. And that was what mattered in this moment. One of the Krell boarding parties was moving through this section of the station. They had cut through the security doors with plasma weapons. They were moving methodically, killing anyone they found, securing the section. They were professionals. They were efficient. They were a military force that expected no resistance. When they came around the corner, they found Patricia and Vorath waiting. The Krell were shorter than Vorath, but broader and heavier. They were covered in natural armor that had been enhanced with combat modifications. They had 4 legs and 2 arms, each arm ending in claws that were designed to tear and rend. Their eyes were compound, giving them 360-degree vision. They were designed to be perfect killers in close combat. There were 4 of them. What happened next occurred in less than 3 seconds. Vorath did not hesitate. He did not show fear. He did not try to run or escape. He simply moved. His speed was impossible. His movements were perfect. One Krell soldier tried to raise his weapon, but Vorath was already there, his claws moving in a precise motion that disarmed the creature without killing it. The weapon fell to the ground. Another Krell tried to move forward, but Vorath struck it not with his killing strike, but with a controlled blow that sent the creature flying backward into the wall. The Krell soldiers began to retreat. They were trained killers. They were experienced in combat. But they had never faced anything like Vorath. They had never faced an apex predator that had speed and strength and intelligence working in perfect coordination. Patricia ran with Vorath as he pursued the Krell soldiers back toward the docking bay where they had entered the station. She was a small human woman running alongside a scaled alien predator that weighed 4 times what a human weighed. Her heart was hammering in her chest. Her breath came in sharp gasps. But she followed Vorath because she understood what he was doing. She understood his purpose in this moment. Through the station's camera feeds, Marcus watched as one of humanity's assigned gift weapons cut through the Krell boarding parties with controlled brutality. Vorath moved like water and fire combined. Every movement had a purpose. Every strike had precision. He was not just an animal reacting to danger. He was a tactical fighter making strategic decisions. He was identifying the threats and neutralizing them with the minimum force necessary. All Krell boarding parties in the main junction are retreating, Lisa Hammond announced. Disbelief was clear in her voice. The Enforcer is pushing them back. The Enforcer is actually winning. But Vorath did not stop at the docking bay. He continued forward, and Patricia understood why. The Krell boarding party could retreat to their ship and land again somewhere else. The threat would continue. They needed to be removed completely from the station. The Krell docking ship was large, designed to carry combat troops and supplies. It was heavily armored and heavily armed. As Vorath reached it, Patricia thought he would simply board it and try to clear the interior. That was what she expected. What he did instead was something that would later become legend in the history of Kepler Station. Vorath grabbed the external landing gear of the ship with two of his hands while gripping the hull with his other two hands. The landing gear began to bend. The metal screamed as it was twisted and torn. The ship listed to one side as the gear failed completely. Structural alarms began to sound inside the Krell vessel. The Krell pilots understood that they could not take off safely. Their ship was damaged. Their boarding party was failing to secure the station. Their mission had turned into a disaster. They made the decision to disengage and pull back. The ship rose on damaged emergency thrusters, its hull breach creating a trail of atmosphere and fire as it limped back toward the Krell capital ship. The crew they had left behind on the station would have to be abandoned. The operation was over. Patricia stood with Vorath in the wreckage of the docking bay. Her clothes were torn. Her hands were bleeding from small cuts. But she was alive. Vorath was alive. And more importantly, the station was alive. Around them, the battle continued in space. But the Krell ships began to break off their assault. They began to retreat. One by one, they disengaged from the station and began to move away from the system. The station-wide address system came alive with Lisa Hammond's voice. All Krell vessels are pulling back. All hostile ships are leaving the system. The attack has been repelled. Repeat, the attack has been repelled. The station erupted into sound. It was not quite cheers, not yet. It was the sound of people understanding that they had survived. That death had come and passed them by. That they would live to see another day. Patricia placed her hand on Vorath's shoulder. His scales were hot. His body was still in a state of high readiness, still prepared for more combat. But when he felt her hand, something in him relaxed. His breathing slowed. His muscles eased slightly. Patricia looked into his glowing yellow eyes and saw something that she had not expected to see. She saw relief. She saw the understanding that the danger had passed. She saw something that might have been contentment, or at least the satisfaction of having protected someone you cared about. "You were amazing," she whispered. And whether Vorath understood her words or simply understood her meaning from the tone of her voice, he made that soft rumbling sound that Patricia had come to associate with peace. The radio frequency crackled with static as Captain Nathan Cross sat in the command chair of the UNSS Valiant. It was an old ship, one of humanity's first real deep space vessels. Not fancy, not advanced by galactic standards, but it was human-made. And that meant it was built to last. The message came through at 0300 hour station time. The voice on the other end was broken and rough. Governor Amy Peterson of Colony 7 spoke with the tone of someone who knew they were about to die. This is Governor Peterson. This is a Priority 1 distress signal. The Krell Empire has invaded. They came without warning. They came without mercy. My people are dying. My soldiers are falling. We need help. We need anyone. We need you. The transmission cut to static, then started again. If anyone hears this, send help. We have 30,000 civilians here. We have soldiers. We have weapons. But the Krell are too many. Their ships are too big. Their weapons burn through our armor like it is paper. We are losing ground every hour. Send help. Please send help. Nathan Cross leaned forward in his chair. His hands gripped the metal armrest so hard, his knuckles turned white. Around him, his bridge crew stared at their screens. The information was bad. Really bad. Commander Elena Vasquez looked up from her navigation console. Her dark eyes met Nathan's. She was the best pilot he had ever worked with. She came from a farming family in the rural parts of Texas. Her hands could move a ship through space, like a dancer moved across a floor. Captain, we are 14 hours away from Colony 7 at maximum speed, Elena said. Her voice was calm, but Nathan could hear the worry underneath. What is the Krell fleet size? Nathan asked. Chief Engineer Robert Hayes spoke from his station near the back of the bridge. Robert was an older man, maybe 55, with gray hair and hands that had built and fixed more machines than most people could count. He had spent his whole life learning how to squeeze power out of engines. Based on the sensor data from the colony, we are looking at a capital ship, maybe 3 cruisers, and at least 20 fighter craft. Our ship can take damage, but we are not built for war. We are built for exploration. Nathan nodded slowly. He already knew this. The Valiant was not a warship. It was a research vessel. The UN's Valiant had been sent out to explore new star systems and map unknown space. It carried scientists and engineers and pilots. It did not carry soldiers or weapons designed for heavy combat. Tactical Officer Marcus Stone leaned back in his chair. Marcus was young, maybe 32 years old, with short dark hair and the kind of focused mind that could see patterns in chaos. He had trained at the military academy on Mars. He knew how to fight, even when the odds were terrible. Captain, if we go in there, we could die, Marcus said. It was not a question. It was a fact. I know, Nathan replied. The Galactic Council will not back us up. The Council already decided that the colonies are not worth defending. They said the resources would be wasted on a losing fight. They will not send a fleet. Nathan stood up from his chair. He walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, past the black void, people were dying. Real people. Humans like him. They had built a colony on a hostile world. They had worked hard. They had made families. And now the Krell were burning their homes and killing their children. Do we follow our orders? Nathan asked. His voice was quiet but strong. Do we sail past Colony 7 and pretend we did not hear the distress call? Do we go back to headquarters and tell them that we heard people dying and we did nothing? Elena stood up. No, Captain. That is not who we are. Robert nodded. I can push the engines harder. I can get us there faster. The engines will be strained, but they will not break. Not yet anyway. Marcus looked at the tactical display again. He was calculating odds, running through scenarios in his head. Nathan knew what he was thinking because he was thinking the same thing. They had no chance. Not really. But they had to try. We go, Nathan said simply. The bridge crew moved into action. Elena's fingers flew across her navigation console. Robert raced down to the engine room to boost power. Marcus started running combat simulations, trying to figure out even one scenario where they could win on. Nathan sent out a message of his own back to Earth Command. He told them that the USS Valiant was responding to the distress call from Colony 7. He told them that they would do everything possible to help the colonists. He did not tell them the odds. He did not tell them that command would probably court-martial him for acting without orders. He simply told them what he was doing and why. The Valiant began to accelerate. Nathan felt the shift in the ship's motion. The engines hummed louder. The vessel shook slightly as Robert pushed the systems beyond their normal limits. Over the next hours, more messages came from Colony 7. The situation grew worse. Governor Peterson reported that the main colony settlement was under direct attack. The Krell had landed troops. The human defenders were being pushed back street by street. Then a new voice came through the radio. It was a child, maybe 8 or 9 years old, crying and scared. "I do not know how to work this. My mother told me to send a message. Can anyone help? The big ships are burning the city. The people are running. My mother told me to say that we are scared. My mother told me to say, help us. Help us, please. Please help us." The transmission ended. Nathan closed his eyes. He thought of that child. He thought of the fear in that small voice. He thought of all the children in Colony 7 who were feeling that same fear right now. Elena watched him from her console. "We will make it, Captain. I will get us there." "I know you will," Nathan said. The ship pushed forward through the darkness of space. 14 hours away. The colony was dying in real time. And humanity's only response was a single ship with a crew of 87 people. But Nathan Cross had grown up on Earth. He had learned long ago that Earth did not train humans to give up. Earth did not teach people to accept the impossible. Earth taught survival. It taught persistence. It taught the kind of stubborn refusal to die that came from living on a world where everything was trying to kill you. The UN's Valiant cut through the void, racing toward a war it could not win but would not abandon. Governor Amy Peterson stood on the observation deck of the evacuation ship and watched her world die. Below, the city of New Seattle was covered in flames. Buildings that had taken 5 years to construct fell into rubble in minutes. The Krell ships moved through the atmosphere like hunters circling prey. She had maybe 2 hours before the Krell landed their troops in force. Maybe 2 hours to get the remaining civilians off the planet. She had already evacuated 15,000 people. Another 10,000 waited in the shelters, hoping someone would come to save them. But no one was coming. The Galactic Council had made its decision. Humanity was new. Humanity was weak. The resources to defend Colony 7 would be wasted. The Council said this while sitting safely in their high stations, protected by generations of military strength. Amy Peterson did not cry. She had passed crying a long time ago. Now there was only work. There was only the endless task of saving whoever she could save. Her defense commander, Major William Cross, entered the observation deck. He looked worse than she felt. His uniform was torn. His face was covered in soot and blood. He had been fighting on the ground until 10 minutes ago, when she ordered him to fall back and coordinate the evacuation. "Governor, we have lost the outer perimeter," William said. "The Krell are advancing toward the main shelters. We can hold them maybe 1 hour, maybe less. How many soldiers do we have left?" Amy asked. 430. "We started with 2,000. The Krell weapons are too powerful. Our armor does not hold. Our weapons barely scratch their ships." Amy nodded. She had expected this answer. She had known from the beginning that fighting the Krell was hopeless. But she had to try anyway. If she did not try, more people would die faster. Get everyone out of the shelters. Put them on the evacuation ship. I do not care if we are over capacity. I do not care if they have to stand. Get them out. "Yes, Governor," William said. He turned to leave, then paused. We received something on the radio. A message from a human ship called the UNSS Valiant. They say they are coming to help. Amy turned from the window. One ship? Yes, Governor. One human exploration vessel. Amy closed her eyes. One ship against the entire Krell fleet. It was suicide. It was beautiful and hopeless and utterly pointless. But it was something. It was one more human who had decided to fight instead of run. How long until they arrive? She asked. 3 hours, maybe 4. The captain did not give a precise time. 3 to 4 hours. The Krell would have full control of the planet in 2 hours. The evacuation ship would be in space by then, but the Krell had ships that could follow. The fleeing civilians would be hunted as they tried to escape. Below, in the colony, Major William Cross organized the final evacuation. He sent soldiers through the streets, knocking on doors, pushing people toward the evacuation centers. Some came willingly. Some had to be carried. Some refused to leave their homes. One old man, a farmer named Joseph, stood in front of his house. He had built it with his own hands. He had planted trees around it that had grown tall and green. His wife had died here. His children had been born here. "I am not leaving," Joseph said. William grabbed his arm. "Sir, you have to move. The Krell will be here in minutes. Let them come. This is my home. I am staying." William wanted to argue. He wanted to force the old man into the evacuation transport. But there was no time. There were hundreds of other people who still needed to move. He left Joseph standing in his yard, surrounded by his memories. Above, in space, the Krell commander called himself General Zaxter. He was an old warrior, and he had destroyed 17 civilizations in his career. Each time was the same. The local forces resisted. The Krell fleet overwhelmed them. The survivors were enslaved or destroyed. The world became Krell property. Colony 7 would be the 18th. It was a small victory. The humans had only recently learned to use spacecraft. They had no real military. It would be easy. Zaxter watched from the bridge of his capital ship as his forces closed in. The human evacuation shuttles were leaving the planet, fleeing toward an old cargo ship that served as the evacuation vessel. Zaxter ordered his fighters to pursue. The humans would not escape. They would be hunted until the last one was dead. It was simple logic. It was complete confidence based on countless victories. Then the sensors picked up something new. A human ship was entering the system at high speed. Zaxter studied it on his tactical display. It was small. It was old. It was the kind of ship that should never approach a Krell battle group. It was the kind of ship that would be destroyed in moments. Zaxter smiled. Another human vessel to add to his list of victories. He had no idea what he was looking at. He did not understand that this small, old ship was crewed by beings from a world that had taught them to fight like animals cornered in a den. He did not know that humanity's greatest strength was not in size or weapons or numbers. Humanity's greatest strength was the willingness to charge into the dark against impossible odds. The UNSS Valiant emerged from faster-than-light space, and Captain Nathan Cross saw the full scale of the disaster below. The colony was burning. The Krell fleet was huge. His ship was tiny. Nathan looked at his crew. Elena sat at the helm with her hands already moving across the controls. Robert stood ready in the engine room, waiting for orders. Marcus had his tactical display open, already running calculations. "Elena, plot an attack course," Nathan said. "Where are we going, Captain?" Elena asked. "Straight at them," Nathan replied. "We are going to hit them hard and fast. We are going to make them regret ever coming to this colony." Elena nodded. She had already started plotting the course. Marcus looked up. "We will not win, sir." Not against those numbers. No, Nathan agreed. But we will make them hurt before we go down. And maybe that will be enough. Maybe that will give the evacuation ship time to escape. Maybe we will save those 30,000 people. That is all that matters now. The Uns Valiant accelerated toward the Krell fleet.